Hi everybody, it's Barb at Quilt Happen, and I am here with block number 12. It's the final block in our 2025-2026 series, and so this is our last one, and I think it's very, very beautiful. So it's a pretty straightforward block, but I do want to remind everybody that this is a tutorial made for beginners, and so it's going to go step by step through everything, so you can follow along with me and sew, or you can just skip through the parts that you don't need to see. It's up to you. I don't care. And yeah, so this is block 12 and let's get sewing. So looking at the cutting directions on our pattern, I'm going to go ahead and start with the blue teal dot since it's the first thing. And so I'm going to take my rectangle and I'm going to, according to the pattern, I'm going to lay it this way. So up and down, I guess that's what, vertical? And so then we're going to cut 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to trim this to 4.5 inches so that then I can just cut the 2.5s off of that. I'm checking to see if it is straight. It's mostly straight. There's a little wiggle right there. Let's flip it over and see. I can flip mine over because I'm using batik. If you are not using batik, then you need to keep it so that you have the right side down. You don't ever want to flip it over like that when it's not batik. You know what? It's still not straight, so I'm going to... The one side, the bottom is straight, but the edge is not straight. On both sides, actually. So I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to just trim off this edge here so that I can have a nice, straight, clean edge on this side, too. And that way I can get good straight cuts when I do my 4.5 inches. So, oh, come on. Much better. That looks good. So I'm going to, I say sew a lot, I'm so sorry, but we are sewing. I'm going to cut it at 4.5 first. And then I'm going to turn it sideways, and I'm going to cut my 2.5 inches this way. So I'm going to go 2.5, 5, 7.5, 10. Look at me doing math. And it's early in the morning too. I'm so proud of myself. Okay, so 2.5, 5. You know, as often as you have to cut 2.5 inches, you think you'd have these like completely memorized, which I guess I kind of do, but yeah. And 10. Boy, we don't have a lot to trim off, but always a little bit. I like having a little bit of extra room because then if you have to square it up like I did, I didn't have to do much, but if I had to do more, I would have plenty of room. So here are my 4 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. Yay. Okay, now just me. I always do background last. I don't know why. So I'm going to go over here to the apricots, and we're going to cut a 5-inch square into 4 2.5 inch squares. And I just realized that I had already cut this down. Well, I guess I should trim it a little bit. I had already cut it down to 5 inches. Sorry. It's supposed to start out at 5.5. So look at yours. If it's 5.5, trim it down to 5 first. And then we can trim it to the 2.5 inch squares. Mine's just a little off on the edge, so I'm going to just trim this edge off. I feel like I have a nick in my blade, so yeah. Now what I'm going to do is actually turn it one more time and do it again because it looks like it's slightly off on this side. Which we're not making these into half square triangles or anything, so I actually do want to be accurate because I'm not going to be trimming them down again. If I was making half square triangles out of these, I would just be like, meh, it's okay, because I'm going to trim them down, but I'm not trimming these ones again, so I really wanted them to be accurate. That's why, even though it was a tiny little bit, I did trim it off because it would have made my squares funky. So I'm just going to cut 4 2.5 inch squares. I think you can see that, right? And so I'm just going to cut this into 4 pieces. So I'm on the 2.5. Cut it. I'm going to straighten it back up because this piece moved slightly. And then I'm just going to turn my ruler. It's a weird angle. If you're not comfortable with that, turn your pieces. But since it's such a small cut, I kind of don't. I'm not too worried. And then also, when you cut in a funky angle like that, always cut slow. Because then you're not going to accidentally slip and cut your hand or anything like that, because that would hurt. We don't want that. Okay, so now I have 4 dark apricots and I have 4 light apricots. I'm going to put those in my pile with my blue teal dots. Okay, moving on, I'm going to come over here to the magenta dots and the medium blue, and I'm going to cut 4 3-inch squares. So I'm going to cut these together. I'm literally just going to layer them together. Let's see, come on now. Okay, and they're 3.5, so I have some room to play with. So I believe I am going to trim these up because they don't quite line up perfectly with each other, which is silly, but I'm still going to do it. And so I'm going to actually trim these to the 3 inches first. But what I'm going to do is I'm hanging over my edges. See how I'm over 3? I'm under 1, or, you know, past the 0, I mean. And then I'm also past here, because I'm going to trim these so that, actually I can, well, whatever. And that way I have a nice square piece to start with. And I've got plenty of room, so I'm going to come over here. I'm going to put my ruler down. I'm standing on the side of my table, which is why I can do that, because my table, it has like, I can access it, my cutting area, from 3 sides, which is lovely. Now I'm going to go, and even though this is hanging off, it's fine. I'm going to cut at 3 inches. Okay. Now I'm actually going to turn this around. And all I'm doing at this point, you guys, is I'm just lining up my edge that I just cut. So it's a fresh straight cut. I'm just lining it up here. I don't care about this part, because I'm going to use that edge, the top edge, to do my trimming, which is the one that we just made super straight. Okay, so now I'm going to cut this 3 inches. Okay, so now I know for sure that I have, I think I bumped you, I'm so sorry. I know for sure that I have 3 inches, so we can lay it down here. It's 3 inches, it's nice and straight. Now, and I don't care about this because it's going to be waste. So I'm going to cut my 3, 6, 9, 12. And see, I don't have to worry about that because it's going to be tossed. Okay, so 3, 6. If it moves a little bit, you can just shimmy it back in place. Fingernails are great for that. And 12. Now, these are going to be made into half square triangles, so you can be a little funky because we're going to trim them down after we sew them together. So I just dropped that one on the floor. And I love trimming multiple pieces, multiple layers, I mean, because then I don't have to do it as much. Okay, so now I have 4 blues and I have 4 magentas, and these are 3 inches, where the apricots were 2.5. So you can see, I love these colors together when you can see the difference, right? So I'm going to put these now over in my pile with my other pieces and take out my background fabric. So this one we have to cut multiple sizes. So we've got 7 by 18, and we're going to cut a bunch of 3s and then a couple 2.5s. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay it out this way, and I'm going to cut 3, 3, 3, 3. And then I'm going to set the other piece aside, make these squares, and then I'm going to pull it back and I'm going to do these. Just so I don't get confused on what I'm doing. Even though I've been quilting for a long time, I still confuse myself very easily. So whatever I can do to stop that, I do. And this looks pretty straight, so I'm going to just go ahead and go for it. If it's not straight, then you'd have to clean up your edges again. Okay, so I'm going to do 3 inches first. So I'm going to put this on my 3-inch line. 3. 6, 9, 12. So that is my 3 inches. So I'm going to take this piece and set it aside for a few minutes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to stack these up. I'm going to stack them up 2 at a time so that it's not too thick. Okay, and I'm going to make sure they're together. And I'm going to put it here on my corner. Flip this one over because I did iron it, but I do have like it was on a fold when it was cut. And so, you know how after it's folded, they still have like a little bit of a lump in them or something. So I like to put those down because if they're up, it always looks funny. But if they're down, then I can flatten them when I cut. Okay, so now I need to make, just cut these all in 2s. So I need to go on the 3. Slide this back because it kind of moved up a little bit when I did that. Press hard. Pressing hard holds these in place, but it doesn't hold these in place. So sometimes these ones shift a little bit, but no biggie. Just, you know, put them back in place and go. When you're at the end, it doesn't matter because these are your tossings. That's not bad for your waist. Okay, here is my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 3-inch squares. So that's what I needed on my directions right here. Put that in my pile. Now the last part of my directions, I'm going to cut 4 2.5-inch squares. Okay, so this is the piece that I'd moved aside earlier. Should be really straight now because that was a piece I cut off of, right? And I'm going to do 2.5 and 2.5. And I have plenty of room. I'm a very frugal cutter, so yeah. I'm really chintzy and I always end up with a lot of scraps, but you know what? I'd rather be a chintzy cutter than a wild woman and then not have enough fabric. That would be a bummer. So now I'm going to turn these. I could have gone to the side and done it, but the camera thing that holds the camera is in the way. So it's okay for here, but not when you're farther up. So now I'm going to do 2.5. Didn't move too much, so I'm just going to go for it. Two and a half. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 2.5-inch squares, and I'm going to add that to my pile. So, and then I always leave my stuff out on my piles like in different piles, so like I don't layer them. See, I'm going to go like this when I have my pile so I know what I'm grabbing. Like that. Can you see them all? Right? So I do that so that I know when I'm looking for a specific piece from my pattern, I know which one it is. And like I can very easily tell that these are different sizes now. So I like that. So anyways, it's time to get ready to sew. First step is we're going to make some half square triangles with the magenta dots, medium blue, and background pieces. And they're all the 3-inch squares. So not these. So we're going to take these and I'm going to set them aside. And my bars, or rectangles. I always call them bars. I don't know why. And now I'm going to make half square triangles out of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line on the back of my background. Now, if I can find a pencil. Okay, let's see. Oh, there's one. I swear I lose pencils more than anything else in the entire world. It's really kind of funny, you know. I don't know why I always lose pencils. But what I'm going to do, people that come into my shop, they're always looking for pencils and they're in random places, so it's funny. I'm going to draw a line from corner to corner on each of my background squares. Now, if you are using a cotton fabric, not a batik, then you have to be careful. You want to make sure you're on the back side. If you're using batik, it doesn't usually have a front and a back. However, this one kind of does. It's really weird because my camera keeps, I think my holder is breaking. One side is actually lighter than the other. Like one side, the color's more vibrant. So I am actually picking the more faded side to draw my line on. So put your pencil here so that it's in line with your corner, then put your ruler up against it and give yourself the same amount of space on the bottom for your pencil width. Okay, and draw your line on the back. I think you can see that. It's behind my camera holder. So, see, that side is a little crisper. So I'm going to draw it on this side. I honestly don't think in the long run it would even matter. I don't think anyone's going to notice that when they are looking at the quilt when it's finished, because it's so minuscule. It's just that when you're examining something like up close, you always notice these things. But in the end, you're not going to. Would if it was cotton, but they're batiks. So come on now, let's go. Putting my pencil down, put my ruler up to my pencil so that I can have a nice straight line. Give myself a gap. And also, if you don't start right in the corner, because you'll like gather up the fabric, see how it wrinkles. So if you start a little ways down, you can draw your line and you can always go back to it and go to the corner. Otherwise, your fabric can bunch up and then it just, I don't know, looks bad. And I kind of wonder, it's not laying flat, so is it going to affect the sewing? I don't really know, but I don't like it, so. I do the same thing when I cut paper on a paper cutter, like the ones that have the little slide thingy. I start in the middle and then go backwards. Okay, so this part is very simple this month because all you literally have to do is pair these up. Now, if you're using cotton, you need to make sure it's right sides together, layer them up. And now we're going to go over to the sewing machine and we're going to sew on both sides of the drawn line. We're going to come back, cut them apart, just like we've been doing with half square triangles the whole time. This is the 2 at a time method. So I'm going to end up, there's 4 of these, and 8 of these. So they literally all go together and we're going to sew them together at the sewing machine. Okay, so we're here at the sewing machine and I've got the piece that I did over at the cutting mat. So I've got that here and I'm just going to literally grab them and pair them up. Now I'm not going to sit here and pair them all up before I sew. I'm just going to grab them as I go. But I have all my piles right here on the table. I know you can't see them, but they're here. So I'm going to go ahead and sew 1/4 inch away from one side. I'm going to go through all of them and then I'm going to take them apart and then I'm going to turn around and I'm going to go do the other side. So. That didn't sound good. Hopefully it sews. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna see what that's all about. It's making a weird noise. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's making some kind of weird noise and it simply might just be the table it's sitting on. So I'm gonna check that out really quick and I'll be right back. Okay, well, I don't know what is causing it to make the weird sound, but it's sewing. I thought maybe it was a low bobbin, so I changed the bobbin. And it's still making a weird sound. It sounds like it's up here, but everything is sewing properly, so I don't know. So I'm gonna keep going because I don't have any other choice. I don't have another sewing machine. So I'm going to just keep layering and go. And, you know, really, really hope it doesn't jam up or something. So. It's not as loud as it was, but it's sewing perfectly fine. So I don't understand why it's making a noise, but. And I haven't used it in like a week. I was on vacation, so it just sat here. I don't know what's going on, but. And the more I use it, the less noise it makes. Who knows? I don't know. A sewing machine tech, I am not. I know how to use it, but I don't know how to fix it. So, yeah. It's not really in my wheelhouse. Okay, so I'm going down. Almost done with magentas. I got this one and one more, and then we're going to take them apart and go up the other side. Okay, Okay, so I've done chain piecing that side. I'm going to use my blade saver and I'm going to cut them apart. So the blade saver works by, you just slide your fabric down either side of these little grooves that are in it. And inside you can see there's a rotary blade. So these are great because you can use an old rotary blade. When you change your blade, I save them. I put them in the back in a little package that says used. And then I put them in here. And then when you get a dull spot, oh my gosh, if you sewed so much you got a dull spot, that'd be cool. And then you can just turn it and you get a new spot. So, and then you just snip it. It protects you from accidentally cutting your fabric, because I've done that. And it's not fun. I even can cut the little threads off the end. Throw away. And then these are the ones I did before. Here's this. And cut off my little threads because I don't like the little threads. And then now I'm going to take the same pile and I'm going to now sew along the other side of the drawn line. So I'm already sewn on this side. Now I'm going to go on this side, 1/4 inch still. Oops, turn it around. In fact, I'm going to turn my whole pile around so that I don't have to turn around on the sewing machine every time. This is actually the hardest part of this block. It's not even hard. Just like that, those are done. I'm gonna blade save again. Now, if you wanted to actually just flip them around and keep them connected and chain and piece them again the other way, you totally can. I don't like doing that. I don't know. They flip over, they twist. It stresses me out, so I don't do it. But even with that, if you had 2 threads through here, you could still put them through the blade saver. Just so you know. It's my favorite tool in the world. Whoever came up with this idea is a genius. That and the diagonal seam tape are my absolute must-haves in my sewing room. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go over to the cutting table and we're going to just cut on the line here and split these in half. And then we'll have half square triangles. So yay. Okay, see you over there. Okay. Short and sweet, all we have to do now is literally cut on our drawn line that we just did. So just put it corner to corner and cut it in half. Just be careful you don't wiggle your, accidentally, if your ruler slips and you go over like this, you don't want to cut that stitching, because if you cut the stitching, then you're going to have to figure out how to fix it. So and if your line wasn't quite straight or you got too far over in one of your stitching, it's okay. Just try to leave about 1/4 inch-ish on the other side. It doesn't have to exactly be corner to corner. There's no taking things out if it's not exactly corner to corner. So, and then when we're done, we're going to have half square triangles. So I'm going to cut all these apart really quick, and then I'm going to show you how I press. If you don't like using the rotary cutter, you can absolutely use your scissors. You have a nice pair of sewing scissors. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to press all of these towards the colored fabric just so that it doesn't show. I don't think there's anything weird in here about lining up seams this time, so we don't have to worry about nesting, but it is better if you can always press to the dark side. So what I do is you always put the color, the side that you're pressing toward on top. Then open it up and then just gently fold it over and finger press it. You can use your fingernails if you want, but try not to push it, because if you push it, it's going to stretch. So one of the reasons I finger press before I go to the iron every time is then I won't put the iron on and smash it. If you smash it, it totally will stretch this, because this is bias and it'll stretch, right? So I'm going to flip all of these over so that they're on top. And then I put my color on top. Flip it over gently, give it a finger press. I'm actually applying pressure, and then I'm going along with my fingernails and I'm giving it like a crease. But I do this first, gently push it. That one actually might have had a little stretch. I'm not sure, I can't tell because there's a little bit of that bend right there in the fabric. Usually you can tell if you stretched it because there's like a little bubble, but that one I couldn't tell because there's actually like a fold in the fabric, if you can see that. So it's really hard to tell if it actually had a bubble or not. So I'm going to do this, gently push. If you don't have fingernails, this is the tip of your finger is fine. And you don't have to give it the crease at all if you don't want to. You can just push it if you want. But see, I don't know if you noticed on my pile, it didn't lay flat. And when you do this little crease with your fingernail, it lays a little bit flatter. But you can always put them over here. Give it a little push to keep them flat. When I go to the iron, I'm going to just literally... And one of these days I'll get a camera set up at the ironing station. But when it's laying here, I'm literally just going to take my iron and go and crease it. That's all I'm going to do. I'm not going to slide my iron because we're not ironing clothes. We're pressing. And you don't have to press hard. I do notice that sometimes when I'm teaching people, they want to press because we say press. No, just set the iron on it. It doesn't have to be pressed hard. But we do call it pressing. And like I'm pressing with my fingers. I mean, so that's kind of what we're getting at, right? We're not ironing because ironing is moving and sliding, and we're not doing that at all. So, okay, so press. And this might seem really boring to you. Like, oh, I don't want to take that much time. And you don't have to if you don't want to. However, if you like crisp blocks that are nice and flat and, you know, whatever, this is what's going to help you. If you, some people that just don't like to take the time, and that's totally fine. It's your quilt. You do you. I like really flat blocks, and especially when I'm using batiks like I am, it's going to come out really flat. So, and if you're not, if you're using regular cottons, this will also help you keep those flat. So, and then when you go to the iron, it's only going to take 2 seconds because I'm going to lay out like 4 at a time. And then I'm just going to take my iron and I'm just going to go, you can use steam if you want to, but you don't have to. And then I'm going to take those aside and then I'm going to put 4 more out and I'm going to do it again. And it's going to be super fast. This part takes longer. And usually I do this at the ironing board. So I might lay out 4, open them up just like this, do the press, and then I'll do... put them aside, then I'll do the next 4. I'm just doing them now because I want to make sure I do it on camera before I go over, and I don't have a camera over there. I'll work on that. I'll figure out how to get one over there. But so anyways, now I'm going to take these over to the iron, and I'm going to lay out my 4 and give them a press, then lay out 4 more and press them, and I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. We've got these all pressed now. And now, according to our pattern, we're going to trim these down to 2.5 inches. Yay! Don't we love trimming? Trimming can be kind of a pain, but it is a necessary evil. Now, one thing to keep in mind, whenever you're working with like squares and half square triangles, whatever this size is, this also has to be the same size because you're going to put them next to each other. So since these are all 2.5, now these need to be 2.5. And we have 16 of them, so they're, it's not fun, but it is necessary. And they're not going to need much. So there's several ways to trim. You can use your mat, and if you use your mat, you notice there is a 45-degree line on your mat. So put this on the corner. Line up your 45 degrees on the corner down here at the 0. And up here, your seam line. So not where this little flag comes, or dog ear comes out, but like where the two pieces meet. That's what you want to line up. Now, if you notice, like, it's a little bit wonky. Doesn't have much though, because here's a half right here. I need to mark that better. And here's a half here. So I'm going to just put it on here, keep it on my 45. Okay. And now I'm going to go on my half right here. You can see it on the line right there. And I'm going to trim off that side. I did give a little more pressure because I'm going over a seam right here. So, okay. Now you can also do the 3.5 up here. It's weird cut, but it works. So I'm going to hold it firmly because I don't want it to slide. And then I'm going to cut across. And now I can cut off this half. Okay. Now I'm going to turn it around, do the same thing. I'm going to put it the 3.5 now and the 3.5 because that side has already been cut on my 45, or this side has already been cut. So I'm putting it on the line and the line. Okay. And I'm putting it on my 45. Now it doesn't need much. Look at that. It's barely hanging over. Press hard because your ruler is going to want to rock when it's on top of that. And that's already straight, so I don't even have to do that side. Okay, so that's how you would square if you were just using your mat. Okay, I'm going to square using my block trimmer. And if you haven't used a block trimmer before, then you are in for a treat, and you really, really should have one. So I take my square, block equals background. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it on the background. Okay. Now, if you notice, there's like a little ridge back here, and it actually butts up against the little ridge on your half square triangle, and it will slide. So I have a 6.5 inch, which means I can do a 6.5 inch square and lower. I don't have to get a different, ruler for each one. So I'm going to slide it down, and I'm going to 2.5. On here, you want to make sure that your 2.5 is either exactly, like this side's exactly, which is great. This side is barely, right? So, and then I've got these extra sides. I could slide it up so that I have a little bit on all 4 corners to trim off, or since this side's already straight, I can just leave it and then cut these two, turn it around, and I'll cut this, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to cut this. Now, this looks weird, I know. I don't start in the corner when I go and do any kind of cutting on a ruler. I start in the middle, and I'm going to drag it, which is weird, but it really works. So then pull those off. Now, I'm going to turn this around, which means I also turn this around because the block always has to be on the background. If you're using 2 colors, it's whatever, like the ridge is on that side, so this always has to go toward the ridge. Not on the ridge, but towards it. Now I'm going to line up my, oops, I went off, sorry. 2.5, 2.5 that I just cut. And now I'm going to open this. And I'm going to slide back over here. And I barely had any to cut off that side. And then this is my scrap. And there's my cute little half square triangle. And it looks exactly like the half square triangle that I just did on the mat. So you can do either way. It's your choice. So I'm going to use my block because it's faster. And I'm going to square up all 16 of these bad boys. Oh, yay, my fave. I didn't used to square when I first started quilting, but holy cow, does it make a difference. Oh, golly. It really, really does. That's a horrible sound, isn't it? Sorry. Let's go this way. Nope. This way. I always want my tail sticking out. Okay, so I'm going to go 2.5, 2.5, and I'm going to hold tight, press, drag, Half square triangle's done. Next, block on background. Make sure I'm at the 2.5 or past. That's a little bit low, so I'm going to go up. Give myself a little bit more room. Because none of us are perfect sewers. You know, I try to go in a straight line, but you know what? It doesn't always work. So my half square triangles usually need some kind of squaring up at the end. So I'm on 2.5, 2.5. And it's done. And you could cut these to the exact size. Like I think it's like a 7/8 or something. I don't like to cut fabric on 7/8. So when I make these, I always make it, you know, a little bit bigger so that I don't have to, I'd rather trim it off than have to cut really odd sizes, which, I mean, 7/8 is not an odd size for sewing, hello. But it is, you know, if you can cut to 3 instead of 2 7/8, I'd rather do that, right? That just seems like a good, oh, see, I didn't flip the block around and it looks funny. I couldn't get it to line up right because I didn't flip the block around, the block lock around. So make sure you flip that around as well. So if it looks weird, it's because it is weird. Turn it around, lock it up, go to 2.5. If I was going to 3.5, I would just line up on the 3.5 line. If I was squaring to 4.5, I would do 4.5. The great thing about a 6.5 inch is that when you do make half square triangles, 8 at a time, I believe, from a layer cake, it's 6.5 inches. So this ruler, this block lock fits it, which is the reason I picked this size. I only carry one size in my store. So, and honestly, I don't really feel like you need more than one size. If you were doing bigger ones, of course, you'd have to get a bigger one. Oops, hold on. Okay. Last one here. Block on background. I say it to myself a lot because it helps me remember. Sometimes I think people think I'm weird because I'm always talking to myself. But if it helps you remember, it helps you remember. That's all there is to it. Woohoo! Done with the magenta. Now I'm doing blue. Feel free to skip through this. You get trimming, trim away, and then you can come back to the video and watch the next part. You do not have to sit here and watch all this. I don't fast forward it when I'm making the videos. Maybe someday I will, but when I started making these videos, I was making them for some ladies in my town who were brand new quilters but wanted to do the block of the month. And so that is how these videos came to be, was because I wanted to make sure that they had some videos to follow at home when they were making their blocks. So I don't cut out parts, but you absolutely can. Just skip on ahead because if you understand what we're doing. If you want to just do it at the same pace I'm doing it, because it is real time, then you go right ahead because you could be squaring along with me. Oh, that'd be fun. I was just so excited that, you know, we had ladies that wanted to start quilting, and that's really exciting. And I understand you need the confidence boost. You want someone to be there with you. So that's what I'm doing. And I can honestly say I'm very proud of these ladies because most of them are just sewing away on their own projects now. And I mean, they don't really need me anymore, but it's okay. But it's exciting because they're doing very, very well. When I'm by myself, I just scrape it with the ruler, but you know, that is probably really obnoxious sounding on the camera, so we're gonna not do that. I'll use my hand. Turn the block lock. Especially if you've never used a block lock before. Let's go. There. Sometimes it's hard to find the ridge in the thing, especially if you press it super, super flat. Doesn't want to find it. That's all right. Sometimes it finds it like right away and it's like super awesome. And then other times it's like, wait, where is it? I can't find it. Keep it on the background. Ah, and then I said it and then didn't do it. Oh my goodness. Okay. Keep it on the background. Okay, background. Background. Oh my gosh, we're almost done. I can't wait. Okay. Put it on the background. Yay, we made it. Oh my gosh. Okay, so now we have all these beautiful little half square triangles. This blue is really pretty. Yep, but so is the magenta. So now what the pattern says, let's look at the pattern. We should have 16 total half square triangles, 8 of each color, which we do. And now it just says lay out the pieces according to the diagram. So the diagram's on the front. And so now we're just literally going to lay out our block. So that's exciting. So I'm going to actually do that over by my sewing machine because that way I can just pull it straight from there to go and sew it. So I'll be right back. Okay, I changed my mind and I'm going to make it on my wool pressing mat. I used to have design boards, but just long story. I will get another one eventually, but they've been out of stock because I like the 14-inch because 14-inch works really well for block of the months when they're all 12-inch blocks. And they've been out of stock for a while. So I'm going to just use my wool pressing mat. Then I can carry it over to my sewing machine and carry it to the ironing board and use it like a design board, but it's not a design board. Okay, so I'm going to go with the pictures. And I'm going to start with the 4 corners. Okay. I'll have to readjust them, of course. Then in the corners, if you look at the picture, all of my magentas are facing each other in the corners, like from the corners. So like this and that. So see how those are facing each other? I'm going to do that for each corner. You got to chunk it up into little pieces so you can figure out what you're doing, right? Point to each other. These are not lined up together. Point them together. This is going to need to spread over just a little bit. I can tell already. Scoot them over. That's all right. Okay. When you have a design board, it's square and it's easier to do because this is rectangular, so it's a little off. And then I've got 2 more, and they're going to point to each other in that corner. Okay. Now the next piece is I'm going to do the medium blue, and the medium blues are going to make like a flying geese right here. So, and I'm still looking at the pattern. So I want my pieces to go down. I want my whites in the middle. So I want my whites to form that. That's what I'm aiming for. So I'm actually looking to put my white in the middle like that because I'm making a flying geese. I'm just going to overlap these a little bit. I'm making a flying geese. Okay. Down here. Like this. Scoot these over. I put that one upside down. I'm glad I just noticed that. Whoa, that would have been horrible if I had noticed and then sewed it. I'd been like, what's wrong with this? Yeah. That would have been bad. That would have been seam ripping time. Okay. Pull these ones over. Now I'm making a flying geese again. Like that. Flying, so it's making a star, if you can tell. Okay. Alrighty, so checking to see if I laid any others upside down. I did not. Okay. Now on the pattern, it shows the bars, the teal blue dot bars are going on top of the blues. So I'm gonna just put those in. Those in. You can chunk this up however you want. If you want to build one row at a time, you build one row at a time. You know, if you want to start in the middle and work your way out, which I do sometimes. Okay. Now I've got 2 colors of apricot. So it looks like, and you can put these in whatever order you want. I'm going to put my darks going this way, my lights going this way. It really doesn't matter. You can mix them up if you want to. So light, 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 because they're going to go diagonally. And then here I've got my last ones, and it's going to go dark, 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 dark. So I know it looks terrible because it's super overlapped, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew this whole row together and then this whole row together. And then here I have to sew the 4 patch in the middle, and I'm going to sew these 2 together, these 2 together, this one together. Then I'll put all of those together. Does that make sense? Then there's going to be a row here that matches that row, and then the end row. Then I'll sew these 2 rows together, these 2 rows together, and then I'll sew the 3 sets together. But this one, you can't sew one row at a time because you got a bar in the middle. So you have to sew this middle section in chunks. 1, 2, 3. So we're going to go do that, and we'll see you at the sewing machine. Okay, so now we're back at the sewing machine, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just take all of these from the top row, and I'm going to do the whole top row first. And then I'm going to lay it back on top of my mat so that I can see where it's going. So I'm just going to take this top piece. We can't see what I'm doing. I'll do it on the side. I'm going to grab this piece, flip it over. I'm going to pick it up on the side that I'm going to sew it on. That's the hardest part, is remembering which side you're sewing on. Now I did flip it over because I always like to sew on a thin spot first. So. Okay, now I'm going to grab this piece, flip it over, grab it where I'm going to sew it, line it up. These are not nesting. If you wanted to, you could press one over, and then, so I just flipped it over like that. You're welcome to do that because then you know you can nest these pieces together. That's totally your preference. I tend to just line them up and kind of flip it back and look to check to see that they're going to be lined up. Okay, and now let's see. I'm going to take this one, I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to grab it on the edge that I'm going to sew it. I flipped it over again because I like to start on the skinny end. Okay, now, when there's this many pieces, I'm very methodical. Like I don't care that it takes me a little bit longer to do it because I want to make sure that I have everything in the right place. So, the white was in the corner. Oh, it's this side. Oh my gosh, I freaked out. So the white was in the corner and it has to point to each other. I was like, it's not pointing, something's wrong. Okay. Now I've got my flying geese unit for the middle. So I put it like that because I want the white going out so that pointing towards the inside. And then here's my other corner, white to the outside, and now they have to point to each other. Okay. So now I'm going to take this one, flip it on top, and I'm going to grab it on the edge I'm going to sew, and my little piece. I'm going to start with a leader inside my sewing machine. I'm going to lay this down top up because that's where I'm going to start sewing. I put a little leader in here. Anytime I have to start sewing where there's gonna be a thick spot. See, there's two on either end. I can't flip it around. Anytime there's a thick spot, I always put a leader in so I can give it a little tug if it doesn't wanna go. Okay, so I'm gonna pull that out. Trim it, trim this off. I'm gonna put my leader back in because I'm gonna do it again. Okay, I'm gonna open this up, and remember the white's in the corner, so my flying geese is the right way. Now I'm gonna put this one on top, grab it where I'm going to sew it. Line everything up, and then I'm going to had to give that one a little tug. Whew. That's all right. Okay, so now my whole first row is completed, and it's gonna just lay right there. I'm not gonna worry about pressing it until I get all of them done. So now this is another completed row. I can totally do the same thing. I'm gonna grab it, flip it over. I have a thin side to start on, so I'm going to start on that side. Okay, now this one's a bar, it's really different. So I'm actually gonna go to the other end, flip this over, and I'm going to do these two ends first. I don't have to sew this together because it's a rectangle. Where on here, I had to sew the flying geese together. Pull it out. Okay. And then I've got one on each end. Now, just remember, you have to have your flying geese pointing towards each other. So I kind of laid it there going, which way does it point? And then, also you can match up your dark and dark. And then this one is my light and my light. So there's lots of ways to check. Now, this thing, I dropped it one day and it broke. Okay, so I'm gonna pick this up. Everything's overlapped. I'm gonna sew this on to my rectangle. Line it, come on. Line it up. Okay, so now I'm going to take this one and I'm going to sew it to my rectangle. That one lined up a lot easier. Weird. Oh, I hate strings. Okay. So now this row is completely done. So I'm going to put it here. Now look, it's wrong. It's not pointing. Also, my apricots don't match. So make sure you pay attention and just flip it around and it'll be there. Now I have to, this is the section I have to do in chunks. So I'm going to slide these pieces down so you can see it better. I'm going to sew these two flying geese together first. Then I'm going to sew these two. You don't have to do it in that order, but I kind of like to, when they're the same on both sides, I kind of like to do the same thing at the same time each time. Okay. So now I'm going to sew these two flying geese together. Lining them up. Oops, it kind of, when I flipped it over, it kind of popped off. So again, if you want to flip the seam over and nest those, you totally can. Pretty sure that's the way. Now, I wasn't positive, but when I looked at the one in front of it, it was the same way, so I knew I was good to go. So I knew I was making all that noise. I'm going to take it all apart here when I'm done and check it out. Okay, now, here's the little bit different. I'm going to sew these onto this rectangle. Well, this isn't pressed yet. So what I can do is I can give it a really good flat finger press. Really press it down. Oh, you can't see. Press it hard. I used my nail. I made it crisp. If you would like, you can also go take it over to the iron, but it will get ironed eventually when you iron the whole thing. So I opened it up, whatever side, it doesn't matter, or open if you prefer. I'm pressing it, especially right here where there's the lump, pretty hard. Try not to stretch it, but press it. And now you can put it back, because now I can sew my rectangle on. If you don't do that step, then you're gonna have a weird, bumpy, strange looking thing in the middle. And then when you're all done, you're gonna have a big bubble in your quilt block. So I'm gonna go along, go over the seam. When you go over the seam, try to hit the spot where these come together without going over it, because then you'll lose your point. And I think I lost my point a little bit, because when I look at it, it's a little bit off. I am not going to worry about that. It's just a little bit. It's okay in my opinion. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. I do try to have everything look good and do it all, but in the end, if you're not going to notice it past right now when I'm examining it, I'm not worried about it. So, and it's not like I'm selling this or I'm putting this into a show or anything like that. So it really is okay. Okay, pull this out. Trim off my yucky threads. That one's a little better. See? But in the long run, when it's all done, you're not going to notice. So I am totally fine with that. Okay, so here I'm going to do 1, 2. This one, it doesn't matter which side you use because they're squares. Love it. Now I'm going to do these 2 squares. Okay, the only thing is here is we're going to make a 4 patch. So what we want to do is I'm going to pick the dark apricot. I'm going to press both of these to the dark apricot. So I put my dark apricot on top and then I fold it over, give it a little push with my fingers. I'm going to use my fingernail or the pad of your finger, and I'm going to make it flat. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to this one, because when I turn it around, they'll be going in opposite directions. So I'm going to flip it over, give it a little finger press. Now when I turn it, they're now pressed opposite directions. This one's going that way and this one's going this way. Now when I flip it over, I'm going to have all my little flaps in the back are going to be going in opposite directions. So this one point is coming this way. This one is going this way. What that allows is those little ridges that you make when you press are going to bump up against each other. And when they do that, then you'll have a better lineup. So make sure you don't feel a gap. If you feel a gap, push them together. If you feel a lump, pull them apart. Okay? And then line them up. And we're going to just sew straight across to the 1/4 inch. Pull this open, or sew it out, cut off the threads, I mean. Don't know what I was thinking. And when you open it up, you have a nice, perfect little 4 patch. Oh my gosh, I totally drew a blank. Now, you don't have to worry about pressing that one right now, because you can if you want to. You can just give it a little quick finger press. Just flip it over one way. It doesn't matter. It's not going to line up with anything, so you don't have to worry about which way it's going or anything like that. Oh, but you do need to make sure you lay it down right so you go the right direction. Now I can take this bar, put it on here. Everything's been finger pressed. If you want, you can go and give it a quick iron press before you sew these together. That's totally your call. Sometimes I do and sometimes I don't. These ones are batiks and they press down really nicely, so I'm not worried about it. But if I was using cottons, I would probably go to the iron and give it a little bit of a press. But batiks always lay so flat. They're so lovely. Okay, now I'm going to take this piece and I'm going to flip it on also. I'm not going to press it yet. Oops. Wow. I don't know if I get slower and slower at these every day or it's time to open my store. Okay, so I made sure I laid it back properly, so I've got my good diagonal. Now I'm going to do this one and this one. This is exactly repeating the steps from up here. So I don't need to do the bar. Remember, the bar is there. So I'm going to do this one and this one. My little corner piece fell off. It was hanging on the edge of the mat. It was cute. Oh, now I don't remember which way it was. Like this, okay. So if you lose track of which side you're sewing on, just lay it back down and try again. Ugh, makes me nervous every time I cut between them when I'm not using my blade saver, which is kind of silly, but whatever. Okay, so this one has to go here because it's the light apricot. This one has to go here because it's the dark apricot. So now I sew on. Okay, now I'm here. I sew this one on. I'm liking this setup with the camera angles. I think so far this is my best one. You can see the block, you can see what it's going on. And so it only took me 12 blocks to figure it out. It's okay. All right, so now this one is done and I've got dark, dark, light, light. Okay, now I'm gonna do the bottom row. Go over. Go over. I'm gonna line up my flying geese, the little blue parts, just to see if I can make sure they look okay. Sometimes I flip it back about a 1/4 inch so I can see, like, where's the 1/4 inch? Are they lining up? Okay, now I'm gonna flip this one here and this one here. Line it up. Cut it off. I'm gonna use my blade saver this time. Throw away my string. Okay, now this should be the first one. Yep, so they're pointing to each other. Flying geese are in the middle. You make sure that the blue is facing in. It makes the star legs. And this one should also be facing this one. Threw me off because they were smaller. Now I fold this over. This is the one where I've got the thick spots. I'm gonna use my leader. them up. Okay, I put my leader back in just because I know I'm gonna do it again because I did on the first one. Lay this back. Make sure it's facing the right way. That's why I put it back, is so I make sure I'm facing the right way. Which, I mean, I would have been, because you're not gonna put the purple or the magenta to the magenta, but still, it's just a good habit to be in. I'm gonna lay this on. I'm gonna start again. Give myself a little tug with my leader. If you can hear me over my loud sewing machine, I can't believe how loud this thing is. And today it's really loud. So when I'm done here, I'm gonna see if I can't figure out how to take it apart and check it out. Okay, now we're going to do the pressing. So what we want to do is we want to press each row in opposite directions so that when we put them together, they're going to nest. Normally we're just like, press this one this way, this way, this way, this way, this way. A little different today because of the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to press all of these going that way. So I'm going to hold it like this so that it's over. I'm going to flip it over and give it a press. Then see how it's going down? Press it. Press it. I'm just pressing. I am not stretching. Press it and press it. So now I'm going to give it a little bit more. Now I got 2 fingers. Make sure it's folded over. Okay. So all of those underneath, the little flags, are going that way. So we want this one all to go this way. So I'm going to, now I'm gonna do it the other way. I'm gonna hold it up. If the little flag is showing, I'm gonna press it. This one is showing, I'm gonna press it. Now I'm going to go this way, go all the way down, okay? So now what I have is all of these ones are going this way. So when they come together at the points, those seams are gonna go up against each other. Here is, these ones are underneath, are all pointing towards my sewing machine. So these ones all have to point away. They're bigger because it's a double, right? Okay. Push it over. I'm going to take these to the ironing board when I'm done. So now all of these are going that way. So now this one has to go this way. If you just went all opposite, you know, with the skinny rows, you could mess it up because it would be going the wrong way. I've done it, trust me. Ask me how I know, right? So these ones are all going towards the sewing machine. So now these ones all have to go away. I think that's what I did. It's harder because you got more seams. So okay, these ones were all going towards there. So these ones all had to go that way. So they're all going that way. I think when I moved it, now there's nothing I can do here, but it doesn't matter because they're going on bars. Okay, so I just said that one backwards. When I moved it, I think I lifted them up. I was looking at the middle, and the middle doesn't matter. So these ones were all going away, so these all have to go towards my sewing machine. Okay, so I'm putting it down, putting it down, putting it down. Give it a little smush. That means these ones all have to now go that way. So I'm going to start up here, flip it over, 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 and over. So these ones are all underneath. They're all facing that way. You can tell like that one wasn't, so I had to flip it over really quick to make sure that it was. Okay, and then this one moved as well. Okay, so now what I'm going to do, this is very convenient, it's on my pressing mat. I'm going to take this over to the iron and I'm going to just do my press like I would if I was doing half square triangles because they're all pressed in the direction I want them to go. If you are just using an ironing board or a small mat, you can just carry it over and just do one piece at a time, one row at a time, and put them back on your mat. So I'm going to go press that and then we're going to come back and put the whole thing together. Okay, I know this looks like a big jumbled mess right now because they're all overlapping, but I did keep them in the right order. Now, next order of business is we need to put the top one and the second one together, and then we need to put the bottom one and the one above it together before we can sew them onto here. So I'm going to flip this over. Now, because I have those pressed in opposite directions, I can now go and do that nesting thing that I told you about, where like we did for the 4 square in the middle. So I can feel there's no gap now in the middle. So I'm going to use my Wonder Clips and I'm going to clip that spot because I know that they're lined up. And then I'm going to line up here. If you're not sure, pull it apart so you can feel the gap and then push it back together so you can feel not gap. And sometimes it's harder to tell when you've got more layers, and that's why, like the 4 square was easy, but when you have more layers, it's a little bit harder. And then do this one, make sure they're lined up on the top too. Okay, and I'm gonna clip that one. And then I'm going to sew them together and just remove the clips as I go. I'm starting on a thick spot, so I'm gonna put in a leader. It's only thick on one side, but I still like to use a leader just because. I'd rather not fight with it. Now, when I take a clip out, I'm actually applying just a little bit more pressure onto the fabric to kind of make sure I hold it in place. Sounds terrible. I'm just thinking, come on, baby, make it through here and I'll give you some tender love and care afterwards. Okay, so let's open her up and see how we did with our points. And they don't look too shabby. It's kind of hard to tell because this one right here got a little bit off. It's got a little tiny bit of a gap. Don't care. It looks fine otherwise. So I'm gonna leave that. Now I've got this one. And now I'm gonna take this one and put it over, and I'm gonna do the same thing. I'm going to line them up on the top, and then I'm gonna feel for the gap. Like I said, it's a little harder to do it when you've got a thicker spot, and so, you know, if you're pretty darn close on those thicker spots, I'm okay with that because they're tricky. And honestly, once you do the quilting and stuff like that, it's those minuscule ones are just not going to show. Nobody's going to notice. My rule is if I can, you know, hang it on a design wall and walk away from it and see it, I'll go take it out. But if you can't see it from me holding it like this, then it's not even enough to worry about. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing here. Oops. I'm going to put in a leader because it is going to start on a thick spot. I noticed it was kind of bunched up underneath because I usually try to put where I can see the seams on top, but you can't always, so just check it. So now I'm going to open this one up and check my points. Little bit better. Looks good. Okay. I'm not going to worry about ironing that yet because I'm not attaching this part to anything else. So I'm going to just lay this one now on top. I can do the top. Now I'm going to sew the 3 sections together. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to reach through here and I'm going to try to feel that nesting. These ones are very hard because you've got 2 half square triangles coming together. So honestly, you can flip it back and you can check, pull it apart and then feel the gap and put it back together. That is actually the most helpful thing. Because it's harder to tell if you're lumped on these ones because they're so thick. So I like to feel the gap because the gap is obvious. And so that's why I tend to do that way. And see, actually, now that I'm feeling this one, I might have had a lump there. I'm gonna go pull that one apart a little bit. This one. Nope, that one feels good. Okay, maybe it was the first one. It was the first one. So I'm going to pull it apart so I can feel a gap and then slowly bring it back together. And I'm gonna, I still feel a little bit of a gap. There. Okay, And I know that that one was kind of my trouble spot, so I'm gonna go slower when I get there. I'm just gonna kind of mentally note which one it was. Oh, start with my leader because it's gonna be a fixed spot. Now, I don't know if you can tell, but I have a little bit of bubble in my fabric here. So what I've done is I've kind of, okay, sorry, I was talking to somebody who came in. So anyways, let's get back to this. So what I'm doing is I've got a little bit of a bubble. I spaced it out so it's on either side. And I'm gonna give a little bit of pressure on here when it's sewing, and it'll help stretch that out a little bit. So that side's already gone. And now I'm going to take out my clip and I'm going to put pressure down again, and now that side's gone. Now this is the one that was giving me some trouble in the beginning, so I think it's going to have a gap. I think I just felt it pull. But like I said, it's not going to show in the grand scheme of things. Yeah, so, and honestly, it just has a little bit of an overlap. That's not bad at all. I'll take that over a gap any day. So, okay, so now I'm going to flip this one over and I'm going to line these up and clip them. So, let me see. Again, harder because there's so much fabric there, but that feels good. I had to press really hard to feel that one. This one feels nice and easy. Here. There we go. It's like, you know, it's by touch. We're sewing by touch. Okay. And I don't know why, for some reason, this one is pressed the wrong direction. So I'm simply going to flip the blue over, this one over, so that I can nest them together. Don't ask me how that one got backwards, but maybe when I picked it up to iron it, it flipped over and I didn't realize it. I tried to catch them, but I don't always. So no big deal though, just flip one side over and it works. Okay, I put in a leader because I'm starting on a thick spot. Remember to apply pressure when you take out your clip. Okay, and that is our final seam. Let's see how we did. Throw that away, don't need that anymore. Okay. Oh, actually those ones turned out really good, spot on. All right, so at this point, what you can do is, I like to go, and I always take my final seams and I open them because I feel like my block will lay flatter. You don't have to. You can flip it over and iron all to one side if you want to. I'm going to go and actually with my iron, press my seams open, these last few seams, and press my block really nice and flat, and then I will come back and we'll look at the finished product. Okay, here we go. This is our nice flat block all finished. So see, those parts that didn't line up don't actually really matter anymore. So I hope you liked this block and you will continue to come back and make some more. I've messaged with several people that at the end of this block, I will figure out the fabric amounts that we need in order to make the entire quilt, from how much you need from each different fabric. And so I will be making that now that I know how much this one took, and I will put that out in just a little while. It'll probably take me a few days to get that done just because of, you know, running a store and everything. So, and then I will post a quick little video about that afterwards to let you know that it's done, and it will be on my website, and it will also be free along with the patterns. So I hope you really enjoyed this one. Next year's is going to be a little bit different. So we're going to do blocks for the season, and I'll talk more about that when I do the next video. So anyways, I hope you loved it and you keep coming back for more, and thank you for tuning in and for following me. I love it. Yay. So I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.